Alright, so we have a lot to recap. Where should we begin? Well, it all started when a witch plus historian, Diana Bishop, called an ancient text and attracted the world's attention. Not the human world, though, but curious hidden creatures. There she meets a very handsome and knowledgeable vampire, Matthew, who is researching the same book. Soon, the quest blossoms into something more between the two, and we find ourselves gushing over their chemistry. But something dangerous is being plotted against them, and to protect themselves, the couple has to leave their loved ones and move back in time. Now Matthew and Diana find themselves encircled in new problems, and this time, their love is tested. Instead of Aunt Sarah and Em's house, Matthew and Diana find themselves in a dirty old street in London in 1591. Diana is somewhat scared of the change in scenery and time, but Matthew leads them to a familiar path, and inside a home. It is disclosed that it was Matthew's house when a person named Kit greeted them, but the welcome is not as warm as Diana was expecting. He immediately figures out Diana is a witch and offers to kill her in order to protect Matthew. But Matthew is quick to defend her and calls her his wife, making Diana look at him in surprise. And us too. The trick seems to affect Kit, who backs off, but he still cannot accept that Matthew is smitten by a witch. He thinks that she has bewitched Matthew, and this has caused him to be so different than normal him. Matthew dismisses him and guides Diana to their bedroom. He tells her that she did a good job as she transported them to the right time. But he also warns her of the technicalities they will face here. Diana, being the brave witch she is, consoles him and tells him that they both are in it together. In the next few days, Diana seems to be setting in. But soon her witch senses start tickling, indicating something. Confused, she follows her intuition and finds a woman oddly resembling Sophie. She realizes that it's all meant to be and that witch will be her teacher in this century. Meanwhile, Matthew finds her and takes her back home. He is annoyed by her recklessness in going outside without him. But Diana quickly defends herself and exclaims that she can take care of herself. They both get irritated by each other, but hey, all couples fight. The next morning, Matthew is feeling much better and assures Diana that he will take care of finding that witch. As a gesture of peace, he takes her outside for a stroll in the Victorian-era streets, but soon their peaceful walk is interrupted when Matthew spots someone looking at them with discontent. Evidently, Matthew knew that guy, and he was trying to avoid attention altogether. But, now that his cover is blown, he has to become 16th century Matthew Roydon fully, and he is not at all happy about it. Begrudgingly, he goes to meet William Cecil, the chief advisor of the Queen. Apparently, he sent Matthew to an official business in Scotland to conduct witch trials, so understandably, he was confused seeing Matthew Roydon back in the city. Matthew gives him a vague explanation that his presence is no longer necessary there, so he came back. Cecil is suspicious of him, but he lets him go. Matthew realizes that he is in danger here, and his only way to escape is to get the book as soon as they can. Later that night, Diana is waiting, but Matthew does not come back home early. Bored, Diana wanders their home before deciding to climb up to the never-seen-before attic. She learns that Matthew has been keeping his 16th century secrets in a hidden room nestled behind the main entrance. At that period, Catholics in Britain were being persecuted for their religion, and Matthew is a devout Catholic. To survive and protect his family name, he turns other Catholics into the authorities. Diana is shocked to see this, but in the middle of her snooping, Francois finds her in a restricted place. Diana assures her that she does not mean to cause any harm to Matthew, but she is only there to learn more about him. Later, when Matthew returns, he finds Diana waiting for him. She goes straight to the question and asks Matthew why he is turning in his own kind. He answers that his father, Philippe, wanted a reliable spy in the English court, and he is there because of him. Diana sort of understands his behavior, but it does not make it less intimidating. The next morning, Matthew's men bring Sophie's ancestor, Susanna, to Diana. She greets her and tells her that she needs her abilities for teaching. Susanna is aware that Matthew is aware and does unspeakable things to the witches. She refuses Diana and tells her she does not have any abilities. But Diana convinces her to give her a chance. Then as a test, Susanna asks Diana to light a candle and stop the bell from ringing. After trying too hard, Diana is unable to do so. Susanna is now eager to leave, so she hurriedly tells her again that Diana is not a witch. But this time, Diana, along with Matthew, asks for another chance. In pressure, Susanna sits down again. Diana, unlike the previous time, truly focuses on her magic and lets it flow naturally. And as she is doing that, the fruits sitting beside Susanna start to rot. Upon seeing this, Susanna and Matthew's men get intimidated. But before Diana can escalate it, Matthew calls her to stop it. If Susanna was scared before, now she was terrified of the witch in front of her. She tells her that her powers are the reasons witches are getting killed in Scotland and leaves hurriedly. Diana does not like being rejected, but she understands why Susanna is afraid of her. While the couple is standing in the streets, a pickpocketer tries to steal from Diana, but Matthew is quick to catch him. Well, it turns out the evil pickpocketer is actually a small kid, and Diana urges Matthew to bring him inside. In the kitchen, Diana questions him and asks what he has heard about her. The cute kid responds that on the streets, people are talking about Diana being a witch, but he is not afraid of her because they don't exist. Diana smiles at his cuteness, and Matthew urges him to go on. He then reveals that the rumor started at a tavern called the Lamb. Matthew figures out that Kit is a common member of the place, and he must be the one to start the rumor. He goes to his place and confronts him about the breach of trust, but Kit is not remorseful. He still exclaims that he will do it all over again because he is concerned about Matthew's well-being. Matthew is hell-bent on killing him, but Diana convinces him otherwise. She tells him that the only way Kit will back off is when he learns about the truth. So, Matthew reveals their secret to him. Kit is confused at first, but he figures out that Diana must be a time spinner, and believes them. But still, he can't comprehend that the Matthew in front of him is not his Matthew. Diana then says that he is Matthew from the future and he is different in the modern world. Later that night, Matthew leaves after reading a note and Diana is confused about his disappearance. She asks the housemates but gets no answers. Kit, who is at their home, is surprisingly civil with her and even invites her to join him for a conversation. There, he tries to poke Diana using his knowledge about Matthew. He tells her that Matthew from this time is not the one she claims to know and love. Matthew Roydon is brutal, evil and unemotive. Diana is somewhat offended by him, but she tries not to show him. At the same time, Matthew goes to a prison where he tries to interrogate a person, and when he does not give him the answer he needs, he watches as his throat is being slit open. He does not flinch or react, and we can't stop ourselves from agreeing with Kit. 16th century Matthew Roydon must not be messed with. Previously, we saw that Matthew and Diana traveled back in time and are now in London in 1591. And there are 3 lists on their agenda: find the book, learn magic, and get the hell out of here. But, till now, there are no leads on any of them. On the other hand, Matthew and Diana have attracted the attention of unwanted people who are waiting for them to make a mistake, and they can attack the couple. And everyone is on the suspect list. In modern time, Sadhu returns to Finland to her mother and asks who she is. Her mother reveals that she is a weaver, and it's time she learns more about herself. Sadhu agrees, and with a scary, determined face, she stays in the place. Meanwhile, Annem and Sarah are currently living at Septours with Isa and Marth. Isa is not that thrilled, but Maeve is beaming with joy to have people at their house. Back in Victorian-era London, Diana is kind of annoyed that even in a city brimming with witches, she is still unable to find a teacher, and she rants about this with Francois. Later, Matthew, Walter, and Henry tell Diana about a very famous alchemist, Mary Sidney, who can help in her tutor hunt. Diana is a bit nervous about meeting a person she admires so much, but Matthew says that she is different than Kit. And it was true. Mary was a loving and welcoming person. She welcomes Diana into her lab and, after talking to her, asks her to become her lab assistant. But, as they are talking, Diana's magic gets out of control, and the snake imprinted on Mary's shoe comes to life. She picks it up and removes it, and Matthew uses this moment to explain why they are meeting Mary. Mary, however, says that she does not know any witch, but she is happy to satisfy Diana's inner alchemist. Diana happily accepts her offer and is overall pleased that she can find someone friendly in the foreign time. Back at the palace, Cecil wants Matthew to interrogate a local witch, Thomas Caldwell, because he tried to threaten the crown under arrest. The queen is worried that English witches are turning against her, so she wants to eliminate any problem that might be brewing underneath. Cecil is already suspicious of Matthew's change in behavior, so Matthew needs to be smart about this one. Obviously, he is hesitant, but orders are orders, and Matthew is aware that he will be in grave danger if he does not carry out the order. On his way back home, Matthew receives another message from a local priest, who wants to meet the newly wedded couple tonight at his place. If Matthew is worried about Cecil, he is now double stressed about Father Hubbard. He tells Diana that Hubbard is a local priest who knows everything about this city, and it is not surprising that he knows about Diana as well. He says that when a fever broke out in the city, his father stayed with the sick to take care of them and then dug a grave for himself when he contracted the plague. But he resurrected as a vampire and now rules the underground vampire community. He then looks at her, all serious and demanding, and pleads never to let Hubbard taste her blood, because usually, he requires so to be adopted into his flock. Diana knows that it will reveal her secrets, so she agrees with him. Later that day, the couple set out to meet Hubbard, who is adopting a new guy in his flock by drinking his blood. As soon as he sees Diana, he rushes to bite her, but Matthew is faster and stops him midway. But he sees the marks of Matthew's bite on Diana's neck anyway. He then asks for privacy from his children and confronts them about Matthew's bite on her neck. Diana quickly tells him that she offered her blood to Matthew to save him, and she will do it all over again if she has to. Matthew is not happy with this confession, but this makes Hubbard respect Diana and her honesty. Back at their house, Matthew tells Diana that her act was very reckless, but then his eyes soften, and he says that it was also extraordinary and kisses her passionately. By now, Diana is much more comfortable going out, so she and Francois go to the market. There she sees Susanna and confronts her. She pleads for a test again, without any vampires this time. Susanna agrees with her and goes to her house. There she gives Diana an egg and asks her to move into a bowl without touching it. This time, calmly, Diana moves the egg into the air. but instead of moving, the egg glows and shows movements. Susanna is looking attentively, and then a small cute chick comes out of an egg, and Diana picks him up in her hands. Susanna then says that she will talk to Goody Alsop, the most powerful witch in England. Meanwhile, Matthew is in a dilemma about the fate of Caldwell. Diana tells him that torturing a person because he said something is wrong. But Matthew only says that it's his job and his statement was treason, so he cannot do anything about him. It is clear that Diana was sympathetic to a fellow witch, but Matthew was speaking more practically. If he does not extract a confession, Cecil and the Queen will come for him. The next day, Diana visits Goody along with overprotective Matthew. She is a small old woman who takes Diana's hand to check her magic. Goody looks at Diana with awe and tells her that she has waited for her for a long time. Diana is confused, but Goody explains that Diana is a weaver, and only 3 exist in this era. Her, Goody Alsop, and Agnes Sampson. But the latter is in possession of the Queen, so technically, only 2. Susanna proposes that Diana must stand before the Rede, so that they can accept her in and teach her magic. Matthew is hesitant about Diana's identity being revealed, but Goody assures that the Rede will maintain confidentiality. Later at the hearing, Goody introduces Diana. But Diana does not want to start a new relationship based on lies, so she admits that he is a time spinner and came from the future. Upon hearing this, everyone is convinced that she is the witch from the prophecy, and welcomes her warmly into their coven. On the other hand, Hubbard stops Matthew on the streets and asks him to save Caldwell's life or else he will reveal Diana's identity to his father, Philippe. Matthew is not scared of him, but his threat is a powerful one. He then goes to the prison tower and snaps Caldwell's neck, killing him instantly. He knew that there was no way he could satisfy both parties. So, for now, he did what he thought was right by safeguarding the witches and giving Caldwell a peaceful death that was not coming on his way. But this opened new problems for Matthew and Diana, because now Philippe is aware of his son marrying a witch, and he is not as nice of a vampire as Matthew.